Commissioner Ashton?
Here.
Commissioner Mano?
Here.
Commissioner Stackman?
I'm here.
Dominic and Eileen are not.
Public comment. Hearing none. Administration and Finance Committee. Commissioner Ashton is the chair.
Yes, sir. I have two items under Administration and Finance. The first is general obligation bond discussion, and the second will be disposal ordinance. First up, general obligation bond discussion.
What do you want to talk about?
There is a memo by Mr. O'Brien.
Who?
That guy. Regarding our approval of the intent to issue $2 million in general obligation limited tax bonds. And,
Right.
I don't know, do you have a presentation?
Yes, to help with this discussion, Marty has prepared a presentation. And Marty? You bet.
Did he go to presentation school, learn how to use it this time?
Why, you didn't like my last presentation? You know, I didn't get any thumbs down or any, anybody say I did a bad job. Up to 2 million. Okay. This is going to kind of encompass a couple of things. First off, we have the intent to issue bonds up to 2 million. And the transaction we hope to complete is by the end of January, but a mandatory date is it has to be done by February 28th. We have authorization up to 2 million. We could issue $1.5 million. We could issue less, $1.7 million, anything up to 2 million. Okay. The second part of, as part of the issuance of bonds, so the question came up is, can we reduce some of our debt that we have out there currently? And that's mainly Oriole Pool. Now, the only way that we can, or the most generally accepted way to get rid of a bond is what we call advance refunding. Advance refunding is when you take a bond that is not callable yet. All of your Oriole Pool bonds that are callable on December 1st, 2022. If you want to refund them earlier than that, then you have to do what we call an advance refunding. So that's where I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go into advance refunding first, and then after that I'll follow into the next, which will be the actual issue of what we're talking about on the agenda today, which will be the bond issue for $2 million. Okay. The bonds that we're going to talk about advance refunding is the Oriole Pool bonds. They were issued for $7.2 million. They were issued in May of 2013. They are designed to be 5-year interest only, and then the next 15 years is interest plus principal. They are callable on 12/1 December 2022, and when we total out all the principal and interest for the entire bond issue, it will be approximately $10,539,000.
So these were revenue bonds,
Correct.
which means
They're not supported by a property tax levy, and that that in order to pay them off, they're coming from other sources. They don't have a dedicated source. Or whereas GEO bonds, or the bonds we're talking about today, would be supported by a tax levy that would be spread across the property tax.
so where's the money come from to pay these?
The money comes from other sources. For example, program revenue, pool revenue, any kind of other source. They don't have a dedicated source. So the main difference is that you could look at there's two types of bonds. One bond is supported by a dedicated source, which would be a property tax levy that's sole purpose is to pay it off. And then you have what they consider other bonds. And other bonds are bonds that do not have a dedicated source to them. So they have to we have to find other sources of revenue.
So they had no dedicated source of income to pay for these bonds when they issued them, is what you're saying?
There was not a dedicated source attached to the bond. So the bond is, it could be any source. It could be property taxes from the other funds. It could be program revenues. It could be certain grant receipts that are allowed under the grant to cover them. It could be any kind of source, but there is not a dedicated source. It wasn't established that this was where the money was going to come from.
Well, how could you issue bonds and build something if you didn't know how you were going to pay for it?
Because of the way you could not issue bonds, the purpose of the need for bonds to cover this expenditure did not have. You could not issue taxable bonds. You could not issue bonds supported by levy because there wouldn't be large enough in order to build the pool. So the only type of bond you could issue that would generate enough money to cover the construction of a pool would have to be a bond that is not directly supported by a tax levy. So. All right, so we paid that service semi-annually on this. It's either June 1st or December 1st, and right now we're in year 3, so we're still on principal only. Interest only. Okay, this is our bond repayment schedule. Now, as you can see, we start making maturity. Some of our bonds start maturing starting 12/1/2018 and going on for the next 15 years to 2032. And as you'll notice here, these are the call dates, and these are the interest rates that we're paying on. This is your coupon rate, and this is what your call is. So this date right here is the soonest that you can go and call in your bonds. And advance refunding is, I'll get into that next. Advance refunding, all it does is it takes your money and puts it into an escrow agent, and the escrow holds it until the point in time that you reach 2022. The advance refunding is just a source of putting the money and dedicating it to an escrow account, and the escrow account will hold on to it until 2022, and at that point in time, then it will call in your bonds and pay them off. So it's not a way of removing yourself from the debt. It's just that you're isolating funds that can build up and earn interest, and that source will be on 2022 is what you will call in to pay the bonds the portion of bonds that you feel that you want to pay at that time. So the option, okay, the amount of principal and interest is calculated. So on an advance refund, you will pick a certain section of your debt, and I'll go on to that in a minute. I have an example, and then the funds are set aside in an escrow agent who manages the money until the call date arrives. Okay, let's take for example this one that's coming due in 3 years. It's a $400,000 bond. It's a 2% coupon on it, and this is what we'll owe on December 1, 2018 if we pay down through the normal process. Now, if we take the same thing and decide to advance refund it, you would take $400,000 plus whatever interest you would earn on it, and that's approximately about $40,000 because it's 2% compounded for 3 years, so it'll be about $440,000. Then you take the $440 and put it into an escrow account, and the escrow agent will buy slugs, T-bills, and different kind of investment tools, and that amount of money, which will be paying at about maybe 1.5%. So you'll have to invest around $415,000 today to have enough money to pay to get rid of this debt line completely. So in other words, you put in $415,000, in 3 years' time, the money will grow and it'll cover that whole line. So you, in a sense, put a line through there, and you won't owe that money anymore. On 2022, that money will be paid to the bondholders.
I have a question. So
Yes.
you're saying, under what you're proposing, the escrow agent can invest the money in such a manner
Right.
that the interest will be hedged.
Right,
In a sense.
exactly how to look at it. And the spread right now, though, and this is when I get later in, is there's not much of a spread right now on your T-bills versus your 2% on this bond coupon. So the spread is about 50 basis points. So the combination of, so you're going to get maybe a 50 base, you're going to have negative arbitrage because you're going to pay a bond that's 2% and you're going to earn 1.5% on it. So you're going to earn something.
But it's not going to be completely
No,
hedged.
exactly. It's not going to be completely hedged. Correct.
So you're borrowing money to pay off borrowed money.
Correct. Okay. So in the refunding process, the first thing we have to do is we have to establish an escrow account with a bond, a bank or some other kind of an institution. They hire an escrow agent, and then we need to retain an underwriter who will calculate, because I'm only roughly calculating, they're going to have to calculate to the penny the principal and interest that you're going to owe today. Let's just say we close today on this bond. So you have to calculate the principal and interest, what you'll owe today for what you're going to owe in 2022. In other words, if we had that bond that we talked about at $400,000, we figure out what we'll need to pay off in 2022 to the bondholders. Then we present value it or pull it back to today's money, and then once we have that calculation, that's the amount of money we have to put in the escrow. So roughly, if we go back to our example we had before, we took a bond that was we owed a $400,000 bond, and it was about $41,000 in interest, and we have to put in to the escrow agent about $415,000, and then when the bond's callable, there'll be enough in the escrow to pay that bond. So it's how we would take the present value of money and the ability for the escrow agent to invest more. They have a little more vehicles than we have, so they can invest in a slug or a T-bill for 5 years. That we only have, our investment policy only goes out to 3 years. So they have a little more leeway to invest to make a little more, maybe a little better hedge than we can. They could get a little better spread than we can.
But the disadvantage is that we have to borrow this money and
Correct.
we're going to pay interest on this
Right.
money that
Right.
we're borrowing to put in the
Right.
escrow in the first
Right.
place.
And the interest that we're paying on it is pretty much close to the calculation we have right now is about 1.8%. So we're going to borrow the money and we're going to pay 1.8%. We're going to put it in an escrow and pay an escrow agent and an underwriter just to get to get a 2% on it. So it's a very small, what they call spread in the market. It's just not, the market right now is not advantageous for this type of approach. So, and then finally we'll just go through the bond ordinance as we did in the past. And at the time of closing, this is the critical part, at the time of closing, all this has to be done because we have to know the exact amount of money to give to the escrow agent on the day of closing, because that has to be wired directly to the escrow agent. So all this process has to be done by no later than February 28th. Okay. Then the escrow agent, like I stated before, the escrow agent will maintain the fund balances. They have to report back and forth to us to make sure that we know how much money, that they're investing it correctly. We have to audit their process. They have to report back to us the amount of money they have. And they are, again, like I said before, they invest in different kind of local and state government securities and what they call slugs. And that investment stays in there until the call date. All right. Okay. Some of the shortcomings to this, for one, is because this is such a long call period, 6 years, it's not done very frequently. This is kind of this might work better in 2018 when it's closer to the call date, but right now today it's not really ideal time to do it. The current interest rate environment isn't very good right now because we got a small raise at the beginning of the year, but they're thinking probably by the end of 2016, 2017, it might go up by 1%, which would help the T-bill versus what we have locked in. Because we have our bonds locked in at 2%, 3%. If the T-bills were going at 2 and 3%, then we'd have a much better market to go into this type of advanced refunding. Right now, today, the market's just not strong enough for it. We contacted a couple of financial advisors and a couple underwriters, and they really didn't feel that they didn't really want to touch it at this time. They came back similar that might not be the time. You can find somebody to do it, but the market's really not ideal for this type of transaction. And you only allow one advance refunding, so you have to pick the best time to do it because you can't make a mistake. God bless you. If you make a mistake, you can't undo it. So this is a decision. Once you make it, you're done. You have to accept it and move on from there. So maybe in 2 or 3 markets, 2 or 3 years, we can look at the market again to see if it's a stronger market. But right now, today, it doesn't look ideal for this type of transaction. So now, a second option is an option that we can also do is if we have the ability right now that whenever we have any excess money, we can move it into capital projects. Anything we declare as excess through the normal process that we have left over in our funds, we can move over to the capital project. Plus, any money that we borrow through our bond sales for our capital projects, if we would like to, we can isolate whatever funds that are we want to use for future repayments, and put them, and isolate them, and segregate them, and maybe put them into a separate kind of account, something like a CDAR account. Basically, a CDAR is similar to WinStar. They allow you to spread your. You could put more money in and be still protected by FDIC because they spread the money out over multiple banks. So, if you invest $1 million into a CDAR, it'll be completely FDIC insured, whereas if you just threw it into a regular bank, you don't have that protection. So, and another thing we can do also is that if we amend our investment policy to 5 years, maybe we can buy a T-bill and or put it into a T-bill and maybe get some of the higher rates that are available. Of course, you take the interest rate risk of the interest rates going up, and you're locking in at 1.7, but that's some of the market conditions that you have. So, in summary, the timing may not be the best for the advance refunding. It's not as common this far in advance. We'll have to retain a certain amount of consultants. The underwriters will probably run us probably 1% of the transaction fee, and the financial advisor will probably be about 0.5% of that too. And the main thing is that now if you start depleting your cash reserves, you can't go with the ups and downs. You lose a little bit in the cash reserve because you don't have access to your cash that you may need to get you between tax levies. Sometimes that extra cash, when something comes up, it allows you to float. So to handle some of the ups and downs of investing. So, any questions?
So, you're saying it's going to cost us 1 to 1.5 points to manage that fund,
Yes.
and that'd be on the 400. So that's $4,000. That's
Yeah, that sounds about.
that's $6,000 just for them to handle the paperwork.
Yes. And then you have an escrow fees. I'm not too sure what the escrow fees
Does
would
it
be.
have to go into a special fund?
Yes, if it's advance refunding, it has to be wired into a special escrow account, and it has to be held outside of our grasp. So it's they have, and one of the key things too is that we can't even when we do the bond sale, we can't touch the money when the bond sale's over. It has to go at the time of bond sale. It has to go directly over to the escrow agent.
So you're advocating how much a year to do this?
I'm actually advocating more of the taking the option 2, which would be to take the in the budget planning process, which we're in right now, is to allocate money that we have and put it into a separate account and to
How much?
For probably what we're advocating here, which would be about half of the bond sale for each year.
Half the bond sale for each year.
I'm sorry, we're asking for $1 million. Let's say we're asking for $2 million. That's a rough number. So then you're
So you're talking about putting $1 million a year away.
No, it's actually $500,000 each year.
$500,000 each year, starting in 2016,
Yes.
so that in 2022 you can buy them back.
Right.
And what would you have accumulated by 2022?
roughly $1.6 million, $1.8 million. Maybe 2.
So then what would be left?
Well, what would be left is that you're buying off some of the because we owe 10.5 if we go all the way to 2032. If we'd have to go through. I'd have to go through the numbers to figure out where we would stand after that. But I'm going to say we'd probably owe. Let's see, we make our normal payments, so we're going to make 4. In 2022, we're going to 6 times 4 is 24. If we're able to put another 2 million, it's 44. 44 from you're probably about 4 million.
4 million outstanding at 4.5%.
Yeah, 3 to 4%.
And what would the payment on that be?
You could continue you're going to have to continue the payments the way the bonds were structured, which would be before. It's 4. It goes starts at 4 and it goes to 4.15, 4.30, all the way up to 5, and then the last payment is 6 something, 6.10, 6.30.
So 422, the payment is 430,000.
Yeah.
And this is your schedule here with the buyout.
Right.
Buy-down.
Yeah,
You-
that's the way it is without them. That's
And
the
you
way
can
it
only
is
call
today.
these once in one time?
No, the callables are nice. You can call them as you go. You can call 3 bonds, you can call 6 bonds, you can call anything. Before it's callable, that's today, you can only do it once.
So doing this plan would buy down our debt, but it would limit us in capital improvements
Yes.
for the next.
It's kind of like what you're going to have to adjust to from today on, because once you get to 2022, once you get to 2018, you're going to be a little bit more restricted anyway. So you're going to have to you're kind of restricted on your capital improvements based on what you have to look forward after 2018. So
And if Springfield puts in a tax cap and limits their debt limit?
well, that would be a problem, but that's something that they've talked about. They've talked about freezing it too, and they've actually talked about not touching the debt limit. So there's 3 proposals out there. Then that doesn't even count the property tax freeze.
Well, I'm still mystified on how any agency can issue bonds without revenue bonds, without a designated revenue source for them, and get away with that.
Well, I mean, the revenue bonds, it wasn't required in the bond covenants. It wasn't.
I know, it's the law. It's the way it's set up.
Yeah, but
And they couldn't have done this unless they went to a referendum.
They couldn't do bonds that were supported by a tax levy without going to referendum.
Outside of the $2 million a year that we roll
Correct.
over. Creative financing.
I have a question
Yeah.
about the CDAR.
Yes.
What are the drawbacks of that?
There really isn't any drawbacks to it. Probably let's just say the interest rates can be a little lower on the CDARs than they can be on other programs. So if let's say you decided to go out and do it on your own, so you say, I'm going to give $250 to Chase, I'm going to give $250 to Bank of America, I'm going to give $250 to 2 other banks. You might get a better rate going the separate way than you would to combine them under a CDAR. A CDAR has a tendency to pay, the interest rate has a tendency to be a little lower.
What about transaction fees?
No, there wouldn't be any transaction fees. It'd be the same as a CD. You open it up a CD in a bank.
So we would manage that money ourselves?
Yes.
is what we do.
Yeah. And in a sense, you always, if some emergency came along that you needed your cash, you can cash in a CDAR with paying maybe a 3-month penalty, which would be fairly minor. You wouldn't want. I mean, it's available to you because sometimes cash in a market that if you have a property tax freeze or not a property tax increase, but any kind of delay in your property tax collection, you really need your cash at all, to make your bond payments and any other payments you have. So those can be critical. Anything else? Anybody? See? That's good.
I know it's a lot to take in, so I mean, if you have questions that come up after the meeting, by all means, just give us a call. We'll be more than happy to answer the questions.
Don't know how you can issue bonds, tell people, take money from the bond and not know where the money's gonna come from to pay for it. How is that legal? Isn't that what Michael Milton went to jail for?
Yeah.
Marty and I talked about meeting at some point during this time, meeting treasurer, and I'm going to digest this now. Is it okay that I meet with Marty at some point to discuss this
Sure.
later on?
One more thing, we'd like to, which option would we go down? Which road we want to go down? Because advance refunding is, we have to get moving very, very quickly. And if we go with just segregating our money the way we, option 2, then we can start on a normal process.
Me personally, I'd like to digest this information.
Well, I'm a firm believer that we need to remove this debt from our books as quickly as possible. With the state of Illinois in the shape they're in, with the political climate in Springfield that it is, we have no control over what's going to happen because it's not very stable down there.
No.
And we'd be in the dark. So the sooner we pay this off or get a handle on paying this off, the faster we're going to be able to go back to a capital projects rollover financing every 2 years, whatever we've been doing in the past. That's my
Right.
personal opinion.
I mean, the way that Marty and I have discussed, and the way the administrative staff has talked about capital, is that we can take the part of the $2 million that we issue bonds for every other year. Take that portion, set aside that money, and then do what we can with whatever is left over. That means that we're going to have to make hard decisions about what we support, what we fund. It certainly doesn't mean that we're going to be able to do huge new projects. Instead of buying, say, a truck every 8 years, we now have to do it every 12 years. If a capital replacement for a playground is every 10 years, we might have to push it out to 15. It's just going to be hard choices that we have to make, and unfortunately, the public may see that. I mean, we haven't had a new playground in 10 years. Well, we've got this.
But you got a new pool.
Right. But we're going to try to pay that off as quickly as possible. And again, if the state does decide to freeze our debt, then we're going to have to make even harder decisions about where we're going to come up with the money to pay for those for our debt. Does that mean we have to cut elsewhere? Of course it does. And if it might have to restructure a lot of different things from how we staff things or staff the agency to how much employees pay for health costs. Those are hard decisions that we're going to have to make.
We approved the $2 million in bonds. That does not necessarily mean that we have to take out $2 million in bonds. But what I'm sensing here is that there is an interest in borrowing the money now in an attempt to manage.
Sock it away
this.
to pay for it later.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a matter of how to manage that money.
Well, the curious thing is we don't know how the budget or the problem financial in Springfield is going to be structured. If it's structured on the backs of the people. They're not going to come out and directly try and put it directly on the backs of the people. They're going to take away from things we're probably getting already to ease that burden, just reshift it into their coffers and not ours.
Sure.
And if that happens, we'd be much better off having the $2 million out there sitting in the bank drawing interest until such time than we would be waiting later date.
I understand, I just want to
Yeah.
clarify that. It's just a matter of how to maximize that money.
Yeah. And the other thing that I keep seeing, we all know it, it's on the table here. We don't have a strategic plan. Won't really get that going now until the next couple, at least 3 months, right? June, to see where the overall picture is. Okay, so I just think it's, as much as I hated to do it, ask for an increase in the levy, it was a smart thing to do because we're going into uncharted waters here financially with the state. So better to have it than not have it.
I understand.
So
Makes
to me, I know
sense.
Marty needs to go ahead on it, and I personally think it's really the only option we have. And I'm thankful that, they took the bull by the horns and started looking at this early on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to make a decision on the fly. I just heard the presentation tonight. What I say by digest, I don't mean digest it for a year, but at least sleep on it. I think you're leaning towards this a CDR type
Yeah.
option.
There's no, this is just more of a consensus type thing of which way we'd like to go. And if I have somewhat of a consensus, you're not voting on anything.
Yeah.
So if you change your mind or. But if
Well,
you-
my first impression is that it seems like you can do more with option number 2. And I would like to go the way that suits us best.
And option number 1 could lock us into something we may not like 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And then we only have one shot at that, so we'd still have, the problem, just we'd have to go back to CDAR again.
Well, you can't.
Well, I mean, you can't advance refund. You get one shot,
Right.
and then after that, if you don't pay off the whole thing, then you got to figure out how you're going to pay that, and that.
And
brings
that's
you back
not to stop us, besides putting the, half of the bond issue every year away, that's not to stop us from putting additional funds that we find for belt tightening
Yes.
when the time comes. It would be phenomenal if we could pay down 50% of that in 2022. Because
I mean, it's a goal. I mean, it'll be a tough goal, but it's a goal of, if you're figuring that you have 7.2, you're going to get 6 years from today, roughly. We could have half the town. It'll be, but it'll require bond proceeds payments that are going to come due automatically, plus any extra funds that you find in your other fund, in your taxable funds, that you can move over there on a consistent basis and dedicate those by board action to pay down the bond.
Okay, well, you are the chair, but I would recommend that we advise staff to move forward on their best recommendation and prepare those paperwork and everything so that at the board meeting it can be approved or.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking too. I would like to meet with Marty at some point just to make sure I have a reasonably complete understanding of what
Right.
the plan is. I could probably meet with you before the end of the week, tomorrow or the next day if your schedule allows. Yeah, I just want to make sure I have a decent understanding of things.
Let's get it in place so I can call Moody's.
Okay, the second item is the disposable ordinance. That's O-01-16. So just as we did about a month or two ago, we are disposing of, would like to dispose of and or sell some of the district's personal property. We would need the board's approval to do that. On the second page You'll see the list of items. A lot of these items are just obsolete. Most of them don't work. They're just junk holding up space. There are some furniture that we're gonna would like to go out and solicit offers from whoever may be interested in doing that. So, but you can see in there it would really be like some copiers, printers. There's refrigerators, dryers, pool slide, paint line stripper, just various things that we just at this point can't use. Any questions or
What's a tag tongue heat devil?
Greg?
It's the
What?
little heater in my office.
Oh, a little space heater. Space heater. Yeah, okay. It sounded like it was used for the parks. You know, it's
Well,
like-
it says
that's
right
a
there,
big piece of
tag
item.
tongue heat devil.
All right. So we can send that to the regular board meeting for approval or not?
Yeah, I'm okay
Okay.
with that.
All right.
Okay, that's it. Recreation Finance Program Meeting. Chair Corsi. I'll take this. Thorgard purchase.
Right, Thorgard is a lightning prediction system, and to help with this, Mike has done a little presentation.
I apologize right now. Throat's a little raspy, and if I have a coughing fit, I'll try not to. I thought this was one. There we go. So anyhow, lightning protection. It's a big topic in today's economy. So Thorgard, we'll talk a little bit about it. Thorgard operates by the presence of lightning. Unlike other lightning detection systems, I'm sorry, let me restart. Thorgard operates by the sense of the disruptions within the atmosphere, which detects the electromagnetic static. Other lightning detection systems operate by the presence of lightning. Thorgard is really a standalone operating system. There is no other unique system like Thorgard out there. It's not saying Thorgard's technology is patented, because it's not. Other operators can try to replicate it, but since 1972, no one has been able to replicate Thorgard technology. So the alerts. So how Thorgard operates, it starts by flashing a strobe. I don't know if you guys have been on a golf course or a high school stadium. So if you're hearing impaired, you'll see a strobe light flashing. The colors vary. Sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's orange, white. It also has a 15-second high-pitched horn. So in theory, when you hear that 15-second high-pitched horn, that means clear the area, seek shelter, get away. After 20 minutes, Thorgard, and when it doesn't sense this electromagnetic disruptions within the atmosphere, it will send out 3 audio beeps saying it's all clear. It's a little bit how it operates. We have a little graphic here to kind of show you Thorgard versus other competitors out here. So in this graphic right here, it'll show Thorgard, and this little X represents oh shoot, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So this little X right here, this stands for the Thorgard. So basically you can look here, the competitor, it's saying it's all clear. Thorgard's giving out a warning as the thunderstorm's approaching. This once again is standing for Thorgard and the competitor. Competitor is saying all clear. Thorgard's now alerting you for a warning. Your storm's getting closer, competitor's still all clear. The point is the competitor will not alert you until that lightning hits. So the lightning can flash right there in the volleyball court, and it's going to go off saying lightning just happened. Thorgard's going to give you that advance notice for protection for the community, participants, and etc. I'm just going to do this and not touch it. I haven't learned the technology, I guess, yet. Equipment. So Thorgard came out here a few years ago and did a study of our whole entire park system, and they determined that we would need 2 base stations within Morton Grove. Now these base stations need to be centered appropriately within Morton Grove so signals can reach the whole entire community and our whole entire park system. The base stations would be hardwired into the power supply. However, I did ask in the event of power loss, would they still operate, and they will operate because they have an extensive battery backup. Now obviously if you're out of power for months and weeks, that battery backup would drain, but I think they said it was 3 to 5 days battery backup. The satellite receivers all will run off of solar power at all of our satellite parks. They're easily moved around, so God forbid we had interference from a telephone tower or a building or a tree, we can move them around wherever. They can be secured, they can be put on a roof. Right here, there's a little map. I think we included this in your board memo. So this map is actually from our strategic plan, but our base stations would be centralized at Har Park and National Park. From that point on, every other sub-park would receive one of those satellite stations. And the reason they picked those is because Har Park and National Park essentially are your two center parks within the whole entire community, and then Thorgard can accurately send out signals within a mile and a quarter to all those satellite stations. So pricing. So the initial pricing for Thorgard is we have to have the base stations. That's the heart and the soul of the whole entire Thorgard system. The two base stations come out to be $24,850. However, each satellite receiving station, 12 of the satellite receiving stations, if we equip the whole entire park system, comes out to be an additional $46,800 for a total system cost of a little over $71,000. Now, you can break down those satellite receivers, so say, I'll throw it out there, Frank Wren Park, we decided that it was not a necessary site we needed a receiver at. You can subtract roughly about $3,900 out of that price. So each park's about $3,900 to equip a satellite receiver with. The goal would be to have this system installed by April 1st, and also to launch it with a public awareness campaign for the residents and all of our affiliate organizations. Some of the benefits, obviously safeguarding human life is a huge benefit. With today's standards, outdoor activities are increasing, and it is kind of becoming a public awareness that lightning is becoming an issue. It assists staff with decision making during questionable times. There's numerous times we're out there with our facilities and programs questioning ourselves whether or not we need to close the facility, cancel the program, and et cetera. And most of the time, truthfully, it'll happen when that lightning flashes, and we just don't want to be that statistic saying it's too late and we got someone drastically hurt. Eliminates human error. I could be outside of the volleyball court there saying, yeah, I saw lightning programs canceled, and really it was somebody taking a picture on the roof at the program. Ability to set up operation hours. This is a really nice feature for this system. Having the Thorgard out there, it is loud. The whole community would hear this siren, the sound, but we can operate that, set the hours of operation. So if we wanted it from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., for those sirens to go off, great. If we wanted it from April 1st to October 1st, great. We can shut it off during the winter months. Staff are notified not only by hearing it around the community, we get computer alerts, tablet alerts, smartphone alerts. Wherever those base stations are, they will get alerts there that lightning was, chance of lightning's detected at one of the satellite parks. And there's warranties that come with Thorgard. It's 5 years on software, 2 years on all hardware. And more importantly, it gives advanced notification. I really want to stress that. It gives us the advanced notification that lightning could occur and is likely to occur before it does. Questions? That was just a little mile-high synopsis. I'm sure there's some questions.
Yeah, I mean, what about false alarms? I'm hearing situations where Thorgard will alert when another system won't, but what about vice versa? What about a situation where Thorgard alerts and...
So Thorgard is built off of the aspect that it detects and reads the negative and positive electromagnetic static in the atmosphere, whether it's sunny or whether it's cloudy. And whenever those magnetic field is present, it means lightning could occur. That's why it may go off in those systems that do go off in the presence of lightning. It'll go off before those systems of the presence of lightning. That's what you want.
No, I understand that. And then, so you can have a situation where the siren goes off and you never get any lightning.
You could have a situation like that. However, that's the point of the system, is to detect within the atmosphere that lightning is likely and plausible to occur.
I get it.
But you mean that Thorgard would read that that imbalance in the atmosphere is no longer there, it would give you the all clear.
Yeah.
So,
Basically, it monitors when there's a potential for lightning.
yes.
Correct. It will also go off like the old school systems when lightning does occur, of course, too. I mean,
It's more in advance warnings.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And a couple of other highlights here about Thorgard. I just want to touch about the software. We did say every 5-year warranty on there. Thorgard, their first system was an L1 system. We're currently up to an L75 system. This new system was able to upgrade software in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road when the software does change. And even when our warranty is out, the software upgrade is roughly about $500. There is no maintenance cost with this whatsoever. It is completely maintenance free. The only initial cost is the setup cost for it.
We do have to take the batteries out.
Yeah, I was gonna say potentially batteries probably.
The solar power. So the satellite stations are solar power, so no, you wouldn't
I
have
thought
any.
they had battery backup.
They do have, yeah, they have battery backup, but
What motivated us to look into this?
you know, with outdoor activities increasing and examples, I just like,
Increasing, you mean we're doing more activities now than before?
of course we are. And I'll give an example, like Park Ridge, they had many years ago a participant that got hit by lightning out there playing soccer, and they put in the Thorgard system. I think it's a right approach from us, from an agency, to protect the participants and notify the public of safety issues when they do occur. And this is something that's a common practice within most villages, park districts, recreation centers, and we don't have it.
I think we're one of the last ones to get it.
We're one of the last ones in this area to have it.
I wanted this before the pool.
Does Niles West have this?
The school districts don't have it, but you gotta look a little different there. They're not serving the whole entire community base. They're just serving.
Well, I just asked
one
Niles
section.
West because they have everything else.
It's mostly park districts.
It's mostly people that have large parks and a large amount of property.
For me personally, it's just a safety issue that I agree with, and I've been in other parks where the siren went off, and it didn't look like there was going to be rain or any threatening danger, but within 3 or 4 minutes, it moved in real quick. So, you know, that's my personal belief and feeling. But
Well, it's a $71,000 expenditure right now.
Correct.
That we don't have, and not knowing what the budget looks like for next year, and not knowing where we're headed with a lot of, we're in such, going into uncharted waters here with the
Right.
state.
Right, I agree.
You know, I mean, you invest $71,000 here, you may find out in July, we're gonna have to lay 2 people off. I mean, there's no way of telling exactly what's gonna happen.
I agree. I just think this is something we should really consider because of safety is an issue to our patrons and everybody.
Now, keep in mind, you can also baby step this. We could tier system.
Right.
it.
I was just going to say that. You know,
I mean,
there's
we could
a
start
few
out-
parks where we
We could
don't
start out,
necessarily
you have to
need
do
it.
your base stations. So national and HAR are required based on the study, but from that point on, we could do
And those are our
Oriole,
two biggest parks with
and Parkview.
activities outside. So.
you know, where we hold our pools. So you put one at Oriole, you put one at Parkview, you could put your main sites and tier system it every year. So there is that option out there too. So I present a worst case scenario.
Yeah, we were really looking for complete coverage because we didn't want to get into a situation in which we don't
gotta
have
budget
Mansfield
that.
protected, and we have a situation over at Mansfield where, you know, this lightning strike came either dangerously close or you know, severely injured
Something
someone.
where there's some grant money?
At this time, I've not seen any grants out there. I know that there has been grants in the past, but that's really when the system was coming out many, many years ago. Park districts were really hopping on it. If there was a grant, I'll tell you, we would be notified either through IPRA or NPRA, and there's nothing that's been notified of.
we were going to talk to the affiliate groups, AYSO and the Baseball Association, to see if they would be willing to contribute. But
The schools as well. I mean, we've got,
Yeah.
Well-
Parkview uses our park. I mean, if you got Ren Park over there, we know the situation there, but I mean, it's still to their advantage. They could be out there doing calisthenics.
right.
And the other thing is, now that it's been brought to the board's attention, and if we don't do this now and somebody gets hit by lightning, now we're bad guys that we didn't put it in.
I mean, that's what
Well-
I'm thinking. Yeah, but I mean, I'm with what everybody's saying. You know, there are potential advantages. We're being put on the spot, but it's also 70,000. If this, you know,
It's $72,000 for 5 years.
yeah.
72,000 for 5 years. We all been around computers long enough to know that the guarantee after 5 years, no, a software update. Oh, that was the old software. Now we changed this. Now you have to go into this. So the $500, I wouldn't.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what I was
this-
thinking.
The technology and the equipment would not change. Yes, is it plausible in 5 years that we would have to get a software update? Of course, but it's a nominal fee. It's $500.
And
worst
it's
case
just to the
scenario.
base stations.
And it's just to the 2 base stations, and it would be 500 total, cover the total 2 base stations.
You got that guaranteed in writing?
I can get
Ironclad,
it.
100%.
I can get
Right.
it guaranteed if we sign the contract with them, of course.
But any software update is just going to make the prediction better. You know, it's not like, you know, you're changing the desktop icons or, you know, things like that. But it's just going to make a better system.
The only reason
I mean-
that they started with an L1 system and we're on an L75 or 77 right now is they changed the size of it. It's gone from the size of the chair Claudia is sitting in at each side to the size of this book.
I hear ya. I mean, we're just discussing this in the same meeting that we're discussing borrowing $2 million to pay off $10 million in revenue bonds. And, I mean, it really puts us on the spot.
I assure you that was not our intention.
No, I know that, but I just saying it's all this managing all these things together.
Right,
It's
and
not,
the sad part is, once again, we do not have a strategic plan in place to know exactly where we're going. What are our real needs? What is our priorities? We don't know that yet. I mean, we're in a unique situation. We're woefully behind in so many areas because we were without a director. They spent a lot of money to gather all this data for a comprehensive overview, and it sat on a shelf, and no one turned it into a strategic plan. You know, and that data is even old. Now we're looking at going into a strategic plan, which may cost us $25,000,
17.
$17,000. Okay.
That's because they're
I
going to
know.
be doing that. Okay.
Right, and I understand all that
Right.
because now we're buying the software too because the old software we had was no good. I know it's endless. I know it's a safety issue, but I'm with you.
I just want to comply with the standard of care, not only a standard of care of safety, but also the standard of care in terms of fiscal responsibility. So, I mean, there's just 2 standards of care at play in this decision, as in many others. So, yeah, I'm listening to what you guys say as
I'm listening to you.
yeah. So I was listening to
I
Flanders.
agree. We're in between a rock and a hard place, but this is public safety that I'm not convinced we can cut the corners on. We're one of the last districts to do it, and the other districts swear by it. Lives have been saved because of it. We have softball. We have the potential of a dog park coming too. These are all areas that people are out there.
Dogs don't get hit; they're low to the ground. Now, if those were giraffes out there, they may get hit. But being a little dog
Giraffe
on the
park
ground.
now. Jeez. So, I mean, fiscal responsibility is top priority, but I think public safety is a bigger concern in my mind anyway.
What's Paderma say about this?
I don't think they really go one way or the other. It's just a district's choice if they decide to incorporate Thorgard into the protections of the park or not. I mean, we don't get any special discount because we have it or we don't have it. There's no increased liability from their standpoint.
I myself, I'd like to table it for 30 days. That's my recommendation.
Okay with that.
Okay. And in that time, we'll look to see.
In that time, Marty will
Nobody's
reach
hanging
into
out
that sack of lots of money.
Marty will reach into his magic bag and come up with $10,000.
Nobody's hanging
$10
out
million.
outside right now anyway.
Yeah, but we have
Well-
had lightning in early part of
Yeah.
December. We had a
That's
lot
true.
of lightning in
Well, I
December.
mean, I don't think we have to worry about a ton of people, just hanging out.
We don't have to worry about it, Dan, until it happens. Then when it happens, it's too late to do anything about
I
it.
don't think anybody's going to be playing softball.
When we
for
look
the next
back up in
30
February, is
days.
there any additional questions that the researchers like staff to do?
Yeah, is there any grant money out there? Is there any Washington D.C.? There's a lot of times there's money in Washington D.C. for public safety, life safety, and that we may not know about. I would suggest maybe you contact the Morton Fire Department and talk to the chief to see if they have any line on. I know that they've got grant money, assistance money when they put the new tornado sirens in.
Right, emergency services.
Okay.
Right. I mean, there may be
No, I was going to
$5 grand. Anything's better than nothing. Get what you can get.
Maybe poll the other districts too and see what they think of the system overall. And, how it's been working and any software glitches they've had or anything.
I mean, if we have this system, we have this warning, I would assume we're going to share it with the village.
They'll
The
hear
Public
it.
Works and Fire Department, Police Department.
No, it'd be community-wide, so I mean, you could be moving snow in your driveway and it could lightning and you would hear it. So the whole entire community essentially would be part of it.
It's that loud.
Yes. It's piercing.
Yes, it's gonna cover, the blanket cover the whole entire village of Morton Road.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's just not for the parks.
You can do
Sounds
it.
like a little much.
You can do it. You can do an internet search and you can hear it and you can, you'll know it's loud and just coming through your speaker how bad it is.
Wow.
Yeah. It's in excess of,
Some money.
I can't remember, it's like in excess of what, like 250 decibels or something like that. I mean, it's
And this thing goes up anytime there's a potential for lightning.
during the operational hours. So if we set the operational hours from, as Mike described it, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., that siren will go off. And when it's all clear, they'll give out 3 short blasts as well to let you
Okay.
know that it's all clear.
And how are you going to acclimate the community to this loud, piercing
Well, we would
noise?
have to do a public awareness campaign, kind of as we hinted in there a little bit, whether it's listed in our brochure, on our website, Twitter, Facebook, flyers. I mean, there would be a community involvement. Village would be aware of it, fire, police, library. We would let the community know that this is happening.
Right. Before we flip the switch. And just so you know, I mean, some people, a question that I often got is, well, what if I came in, what if I started using the field before it was operational hours? Let's say it's set from 8 a.m., start at 8 a.m. I come in at 7 o'clock. How do I know I'm protected? The strobes go off, but the horns don't go off. So you can go, if you approach a park, you see the strobe light flashing, you know that Thorgard had been activated and should be in the park. So it's not, it's not off and on between those hours. The horns just don't go off during the operational
All right.
hours.
Isn't we
But anyway.
deactivate those horns and just do the strobe lights?
Well, it's just,
Feeding the bird.
yeah,
You gotta keep in mind
Because the
this.
strobe light's only going to be in a certain.
yeah,
spot.
just one area.
Everyone will be
Well,
able to see
the
it.
point behind the strobe and sound is for hearing impaired or visually impaired
Right.
participants.
Or indoors, because if you have one in here.
We can wire it so it goes off and Marty pays off the pool bonds?
We could.
Turn it off right away.
All right. Okay.
Har Park, hole in the ground. Money.
Yes. All right. So, trying to get a handle on our water loss over the summer. Greg went to a vendor to do an inspection of the pipes, and there are a couple of areas that have separated that is causing leakage, and there is a suspected 30-foot crack in the return pipe. So what we would are requesting tonight is that the board approve a proposal from DeFranco Plumbing of Palatine, Illinois, in an amount of $9,950 to repair those two sections, and if needed, $7,900 to replace that 30-foot section of return pipe. This would be all materials associated with putting the concrete back in place and everything like that. So should not be an additional cost. I guess you just won't be able to see if there is a crack in there until he takes out part of the concrete. So
The crack, you can't tell with the camera if it's a crack or if it's something else we're seeing.
Right.
So we'll be able to be positive when we
Pressurize the pipe.
and know because you have the other pipes.
the other
It's the
separations.
same, it's all the same return line. It's all the gutters and the return lines.
Do we know that these are the only two pipes that are currently, or two sections of pipe that are currently leaking? Is it possible that we do these repairs and then find out that water's continuing to leak and we have to go in again and
He did all the pipes. We're pretty
All the
confident
pipes.
these are the only two
All-
separations and
That's
possible.
all we could see, and all the pressures did not hold on. I couldn't guarantee you that there's not other issues. I could not guarantee, I can't guarantee you that the liner's not leaking too. I mean, it's an over 50-year-old facility, and
so we can fix this and it can still be leaking.
we can fix this. We're hoping that it, it cuts our leak
It's just
down.
not going to leak as much.
I can't guarantee anything until we fire it up.
But we spent how much more, Marty? How much more in water costs this year because of the leakage? We were losing 30,000 gallons
I can tell you that
a day,
Oriole
a week,
will
huh?
cost us around
12,000.
12,000 a day, 12,000 gallons a day.
I just want to know what's going on. So we could spend this money, we could fix it, and we could have just as much water leaking, after the day after.
All those
Well-
problems are within that 30 feet. So
We're not positive. like
no,
said.
but I mean that's where it looks the most
Well, it looks like the two
identifiable.
pipes going down, you can see that they're separate. These are two drop pipes that go into
Because
it.
my feeling is we're going to wind up spending the additional money once they open that up.
Those pipes ain't 50 years old, though.
No.
Those pipes are
Those pipes were redone when we redid the deck.
99.
There's no way to put a liner in those because of
The
chemicals.
30-foot line, he talked about maybe putting a liner, that's why we wanted to disturb it. So depending on what he's up against, we it's in there. And then it goes back to what Dan says about strategic planning. Until we have a strategic plan for that pool, you can't replace the liner for $200,000. You could be throwing, bad money away. So this is kind of a repair that we know it needs to be done. It may help. I'm hoping it helps a lot, but I can't guarantee anything at that point.
I don't even know what to say anymore with that. Just don't.
I mean, the other
Sure.
option was to spend $25,000 and do another pool study, which we did in 2005.
Right.
All the improvements that need to be done were suggested then, but we've just been holding off. Oh yeah, we're going to get a grant there. We're going to do this. Just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. Well, we could be we're at Oriole next year. I can't guarantee anything. I can't even get somebody to come out, like I want to do some concrete testing, I can't even get somebody to come out and repair a liner after you cut it through concrete testing.
Oh, yeah,
The liner's
yeah.
so old.
Yeah,
There's no, we can't, we won't do it.
Nobody wants to touch it.
Yeah.
The liner's only 17 years old now, 16 years old.
99, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
past its life
it's all
expectancy.
brittle and it needs to be replaced.
I question if we can even make it through the season with this line because of its age. It's
Well-
surpassed its lifetime. You know, we're lucky to be at the point we're at now with it, if I remember right.
Well, there's no alternative, my friend.
Well, right, we just limp it along until we have a strategic plan, that we know what we want to do with the pool and how we're going to address it.
And you know what, both polls, we crossed our fingers every year and said, let's make it another year, you know, we marked the days off.
Right.
Unfortunately, their own facilities and, you know, something was done with Oriole.
I mean, if we don't do anything, you're right. Well, if we do something, we're not guaranteed that it's going to fix the problem. But if we don't do anything, we know we've got this loss. It will only get worse.
Right, I mean, either way, I just don't want to be surprised.
So we're looking at 18 grand if they have to replace that pipe.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
17, 850.
You spent that in water, didn't we?
Easily.
No doubt.
But if this isn't the only leak, we're gonna, you know, if this isn't the
Well,
only
like I said,
crack,
we'll be-
we're
instead
gonna
of 12,000,
spend the same
we'll be
money.
making
You
1,000.
know, whether there's 4 leaks
Well,
or
if-
one leak,
Even
it
an
doesn't
order,
matter.
brand new pool, you're losing 2,000.
Oh, yeah,
It's evaporation.
exactly. Just from evaporation.
That's kind of normal. Yeah. We were up to 18,000 before Oriole failed, so. It's a little indication. So we were losing a big Oriole failed. Those are fun.
This guy ain't gonna do this now, is he?
No, unless we get in the summer, we'll do the batch. And if we get
No, he could core cut it and change the pipe now.
yeah. And backfill.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice.
We have Oriole pool.
Trying to get me nauseous. All right, well, I don't see where we have a choice.
Great. Okay.
Now he wants to spend money for park equipment over there.
Well, yeah. All right. First one in your packet is Oriole. So Oriole was actually, I'm sorry, it was on the replacement schedule for next fiscal year. But seeing how we weren't sure what we were going to do with the parking lot, we kind of thought maybe I got this right, Greg? This was on, Oriole was done for next year, and Overhill was on next year. Do I have them flipped?
Overhill was up in 15, 16. And
Right, we were supposed to do that this fiscal year. However, we kind of held off on that until we figure out what we were going to do with the parking lot over there, so we could kind of do the two projects at the same time rather than do the parking lot, come back in and do the playground the next year. So these are the options. We went to Upland Design, who's done numerous other parks for us, and these are the conceptual plans that they had for Oriole Park. This playground is designed for the 5 to 12-year-old user. They've got all different kinds of variations in here, or amenities that they found is ideal for this age group. Here's your layout here. This is being the north end of the park. This blue area here and here are the rubberized poured in place. So this meets ADA compliance issues here. Because there is this black curbing that goes around the park, they're going to have to take that out because it's a trip hazard and put in more a concrete curbing that's a little bit lower to the ground. They use the regular fill bar, which is the the wood chips in this area here. So this is a general layout. It all meets with safety zones and things like that. The neat thing about this one is it did try to incorporate this little path in this area. As you can see here, it's kind of what it would look like, but it gives a little hiding area for kids. Not that they'll get lost in there or anything, but just one way to get kids to be a little closer to nature. So. Fun.
Back to school.
Well, all right. Sorry. So let's go to your packet and go to option number 2. It's just, again, with the safety design and everything. This one is we asked that it be a little bit more creative, and it's not your traditional playground that you see here. It's a little bit more of the climbing stuff. You don't see a lot of slides in there, but it does add some uniqueness or some differences in there. And again, in this, they still have that little pathway in from the woods area. The green areas then would be the port in place to meet ADA compliance, and it does kind of incorporate these apparatuses into that hill. The hill's only about 3 feet high, so it shouldn't create any blockage, view obstructions, that sort of thing. The last one, option number 3 for Oriole, is your typical what you kind of see for playgrounds. The dual slides, the teeter-totter, again swings, that sort of thing. And then again, the light-colored areas again are the port in place. So basically, what we wanted to do is present these to you to get your feedback on these. What we're going to do after this, once we get an idea of your feedback, then we're going to host a community event in which we would look at the parks and then target households within a mile radius of each of those parks. Invite them to come to an open house so that they can see the playgrounds, the designs, give their input. I used my 6 and 9-year-old for the playgrounds to see what they liked. But it would be a nice opportunity to have their kids come in, kind of look at that. They're the ones that are going to be using the playground. So for us, it's really important to get their input now. Because I don't want to go out to, we go to Oriole, we put something in and find out that nobody's using it, nobody likes it, that sort of thing. So if we get community involvement right away, we can avoid any of those issues. The other one is Overhill Park. Excuse me. Now, Overhill Park is right next to, what's the name of the school?
Belzer.
Belzer School. So rather than design something that is for the 5 to 12-year-olds, because the playground next to it is for 5 to 12-year-olds, we wanted to look at a playground system that is really for the younger kids, the 2 to 5-year-olds. So this is specific to that. This is the bigger. If you look at the Oriole, they're big apparatuses. They're sprawling all over the area. So there's a lot more that can be involved. There's a lot more in there for different age groups. And seeing how this is right there, it's a very small area. We're concentrating on the 2 to 5-year-olds. So this is just a conceptual idea. Here we have an alternative because when Greg and the architect and I were out there, we noticed a lot of people that were parking on Overhill and then walking through the park up through the backside of their playground to drop their kids off. So we've looked at possibly extending our sidewalk to match up into their sidewalk to give a nice little area for them. Of course, I would reach out to the school to say, okay, we'll pay for the sidewalk up to our property line if you pay for the rest of it, that sort of thing. Otherwise, we don't have to do it. So this is a nice little design things, a lot of interactive things. They've got chimes, which was kind of neat for that park. And you can see here, now this material here is all poured in place. Since it's a small area, we can do that. It's really low maintenance. It's safe for the kids, for the 2 to 5 year olds. The nice thing about this is they're going to incorporate more of underneath the trees. They're going to do these pavers. There's different kinds of pavers or ground materials to get the kids involved inside in the nature. It really does help us help maintain that, because right now it's very shaded. Not a lot of stuff grows under there, so we'll be able to do more ground materials that are more conducive to growing in that kind of environment. Here's another one. We thought it was kind of neat with the rock and the tree, and then it's again just for that age group. Kind of neat here that here's the little. These are parts of tree trunks. You just cut off a 3-inch and put it into the ground. It was kind of neat to be able to do that. They're putting in a little sculpture in there to be a little bit interactive for the kids, maybe a frog or something. You still have these chimes that they can be able to bang on. We do look at the drainage and kind of improving that, doing some nice little garden kind of thing. This one really kind of steps out. Again, I asked for something really different, unique, and this is kind of what they came up with. I'm not sure how this would go over with the public, seeing how it is so different, but it gives them an opportunity to say, well, it's something different, something unique for their kids. So that's it. If you had any questions or anything that you want to say about those that would help, at least guide us.
Yes, two things. One, the Overhill and Oriole, you're saying each of them are not ADA compliant?
No, I'm saying that the material underneath. Hang on, let me just back up and answer that. So yes, Overhill is not ADA compliant because there is a drop off, and there's no ground material or supporting. Am I right?
Right, there's no
Okay.
ramp.
Right. So there's no ramp to get them on and off.
With the rubber surfacing is, we're continuously filling the 5-bar areas, and if you put the rubber surfacing, you're not doing that anymore, so you're already talking about $1,800 a load of 5-bar, and it doesn't even do fancy. Right. So you have to get a couple bolts if you want. You keep refilling it.
So at Oriole, they will have this little ramp, which I believe is there right now. But the ground material, this is really the only ADA accessible area in the park. But the material generally, they can still traverse it, but because that's the area that has it. This swing right here is an ADA swing.
So what are we spending on this stuff? Oriole, Overhill?
Well, it depends on the
Why do
option.
we the money with you all of a sudden? Everything's a dollar bill.
Right. Yeah. Right. So we
I'm not going.
for Oriole, it is in the 140,000 range. That's everything, all fees, all materials, no nothing strange there. With Overhill, it can range anywhere from 115,000 to 136,000,
Depending on the option we choose.
depending on the option that you would choose. Correct.
What's our budget? Do we have
150. We told them that everything had to come in, all costs under 150. Right.
Saying each park or together?
Each park.
Each park.
So a total of 300.
And we have 300 budgeted.
We have 150 for one of the parks, and one of the other one would be in next fiscal year. So yeah.
we already bumped up, doing playgrounds every 15 years, so we're already, these are.
Maximum amount.
You've been that one at Orioles been around for 15 years.
Yeah, 2000. Time flies.
That one, I mean, they both get some use. Oriole and Overhill. I live kind of nearby both. And walk by them. They do get use.
All right? No executive session, right?
We don't need to, no.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I make a motion. But there's nothing else. Then I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You're not recording?
On the bottom one.
Huh?